Okay, one other snippet from that GQ interview that I found interesting. Austin Butler forced Timothee Chalamet to raise the bar in Dune Part Two. So I know Austin Butler received knife training. He revealed that pretty early on that he was having to get in shape, getting put through the paces. I don't know who he was training with, but I wonder if it was the stunt coordinator. He's in the movie, actually. He's the Atreides soldier who Feyd fights with in the trailer in Gladiator fight. So he's the stunt coordinator, or fight coordinator, I'm sorry, for Dune and Dune 2. So I wonder if he contributed to Austin Butler's training in that regard. That would make sense. So Timothee Chalamet had, took Tom Cruise's advice, obviously, but he also had someone who, his rival in the film to contend with. So that obviously helped in getting him motivated to prepare. Chalamet talks about the first time he and Butler met in regards to Dune. So it was over Zoom, and Butler had already prepared to the point where he sounded very obviously inspired by Skarsgård, Stellan Skarsgård, who plays the Baron Harkonnen. Timothee says, quote, "I can't overstate how inspiring it was to me personally, because here was someone who's a little older than me, but generationally we're similar. And I don't know how he would put it, but his journey was different than mine. But he takes the work incredibly seriously. And I feel like I hadn't seen that among someone my age, whether it was in drama school or on set. That did take the work that seriously, but then after cut wasn't, in some show of how seriously they took it, and instead is this tremendously affable, wonderful man." Austin Butler, definitely, I haven't seen him in much, but he definitely seems to be very dedicated and very, very serious, but also just kind of a chill dude. This also kind of reminds me of what Stephen McKinley Henderson said about Austin Butler, because he talked about the scenes that he would have or did have with Austin Butler, and that he was very intimidating and very scary when they were filming. And then when it was cut, he was very nice and very sensitive to his needs, because I think he had a health scare during filming. So when he came back, Austin Butler was, when the scene was ended, was very attentive to him, making sure he was okay. That's kind of cool that he can turn that off. Unlike some, I guess, method acting might be what Timothee may be referring to, ones that have to keep in their headspace of the role to be effective. So that's nice. I'm sure it makes for a better environment on set, especially for one who's playing such a villain, to be able to turn it off. One of Dune's producers, Cale Boiter, spoke about how that carried over to the final scene too. And he said, quote, "You're talking about two of the most talented young actors of our generation facing off. I would say Timmy's level of preparation going into the scene, while knowing he was fighting Austin, enhanced it." So yeah, that must have been really cool to be on set to watch that. And it makes sense too for the setting that they kind of played off each other, what they bring to the role and their characters. That makes sense for rivals specifically, and enemies, bitter enemies. The article just talks about more about who Chalamet prefers to spend time with, that keeps him in a good headspace, I guess. The good energy Hollywood is what he says, like Austin and Florence Pugh and Zendaya and Tom Holland, her boyfriend who would come to set. I'd say that's important too, especially for someone young, to have good people around you, people who care about you. All of this just makes us, I'm sure, well, it makes me uber excited for the fight scenes. Even more, knowing that there was so much dedication and preparation. I think those will be one of the highlights for sure, as the battle aspect to it. And that's what Denis Villeneuve describes this film as, is that it's this epic war film with some romantic elements, the romantic element of Paul Atreides and Chani.